Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for a modern league. Sorry, did he just say modern? I think he did. That's right. Anthony D donated to see this modern Stoneforged Spike deck in action. This is a pretty spicy brew, which is super budget friendly. It cost me 17 ticks to rent this deck, and I believe the entire deck is about 68 ticks, almost all of which is in the price of the 2 surgical extractions in the sideboard. So if you have some sort of budget challenge for Modern, this might be a good deck list to look at. Okay, what is going on with this deck list? The namesake card of the deck is Quietus Spike, which gives the equipped creature Death Touch, and whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. Hey, hold on a second, Phil. Does that mean if a creature has double strike, you get to halve their life total twice? It sure does, Timmy. It sure does. So this deck is full of creatures that have either first strike or double strike, or that can, get some sort of evasion as well, too. The idea is, with equipment that gives Death Touch, your first strikers or double strikers just absolutely dominate combat. And most of the creatures that are in this deck have protection from something to make life harder for your opponents. Fire Walker is pro-red, White Knight is pro-black, Mirran Crusader is pro-black and pro-green. So the idea here is that you stick a Quietus Spike onto a creature that is hard to kill, and you just go like, there's 10 damage, and now I'm going to kill you very easily with these creatures that otherwise are just, like, slightly hard to remove. 2/2s. Backing up with the rest of the package, Basilisk Collar does give lifelink, so that can be really useful against, like, aggro and burn decks, and then Trusty Machete is just, like, a +2/+1, which normally that doesn't really seem like a modern playable card. But all of a sudden, when your creatures have either, like, double strike, or they're effectively a baby true name nemesis that can't be killed easily, or they otherwise have evasion, all of a sudden Trusty Machete doesn't necessarily look so bad. Highlighting another card that you might not be overly familiar with here is Mark of Asylum, which prevents all non-combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. So essentially that's going to shut off things like Lightning Bolt from going and destroying your creatures. The sideboard is primarily filled with things that can be hate for combo decks. You're hoping that your protection creatures can kind of like, maybe not bully, maybe that's not quite the word, but like take over a game versus a fair deck. So we need like our Thalias and our Ley Lines, our Dampening Spheres, our Graveyard Hate in order to fight against the unfair stuff of the format. We'll see how this goes. We'll see if this hyper budget deck can hold up to things like Amulet Titan et al. All right, if you're interested in seeing more content, modern content in the future, please take a moment and throw me a like. That sort of stuff helps out with my content way more than you think it would, and it's especially important for my non-legacy viewers. Let's get some new eyes on my content, and let's battle. Okay, so I'm looking at this first hand, and I don't have a piece of equipment. I don't have a way to get a piece of equipment, and really, I don't have all that much pressure. I think I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one. Yeah, this hand I like way, way better. And I think I'm just going to throw back the Oblivion Ring. I don't have the mana to cast it currently. And I think this deck is just going to be close enough to an aggro deck that I really want aggressive or aggressive-ish hands. This is indicative of like a burn deck. Or Firewalker is going to be sick. Oh, rats. Alright, so we are facing a ramp deck. Alright, so question is like, do I play mana inefficiently or not? Next turn, if I have Core Duelist, it attacks for 6, whereas Core Firewalker would attack for 4. Alright. Or Firewalker could, like, do things in some cases, but I don't think I want this game to go on, because I think it's too likely that a Primeval Titan comes down and just absolutely murders me. I would like to equip this Mirran Crusader next turn. If I draw a land, I can, like, Mirran Crusader plus Stoneforge Mystic. And then, like, grabbing Quietus Spike is pretty disgusting. Mirran Crusader just gets through the Arboreal Grazer and most of the other things that my opponent can put onto the table. The unfortunate thing here is that a Valakut trigger will still just absolutely ruin Mirran Crusader. Yeah, that's spooky. I grab my trusty machete. Go to work. And that's worth 8. That's cool. But this is a problem. Opponent now has 4 other mountains, and presumably they're going to have ways to put more things into play. Oh no, that's a Primeval Titan in all likelihood. Now, Valakut, despite the fact that it has taps for red on it, this is a colorless card, so my core Firewalker isn't really protected from this. Yeah, okay. I think I'm just dead. Yeah. I'm not literally dead, because my opponent is going to spread those out to hit my creatures and me as well. But I don't think I get to come back from that. Take 2 more here, going to 6. Nope, I'm just literally dead. All right. This sideboard sure doesn't appear to have things for this matchup, huh? So we're just running back the game 1 plan. Can this get protection from colorless? Nope. All right, I don't want these. They don't attack. I guess I could give myself hexproof for Valakut triggers, but Primeval Titan will still just kill me a lot of the time, right? Yeah, let's not do that. I do not feel confident here. I have the Quietus Spike. I have Core Duelist into Thalia, and then I can't Quietus Spike afterwards. Or I can go Core Duelist into Kitesail Apprentice. And maybe I want to, like, Path to Exile hand instead. Sounds better. I have to get 3 more artifacts for this to be free. I want to keep this hand. Don't feel super great about this. All of this. I think that's going away. Like, it just feels like without something like a Leonin Arbiter, I don't know that I can really keep up here. Like, I'm attacking with a vanilla 1/1 right now. Like, it gets a little better next turn. Like, I have a first strike Death Toucher, literally a double strike Death Toucher. But I feel underpowered here. And the equip cost here of 2 means that I'm, like, next turn I'm not going to deploy another creature. I don't know if the equipment that's here is going to be strong enough. Yeah, you avoid 2 damage. My opponent can be looking at casting Primeval Titan next turn. That's no good for me. And notably here, my opponent's at 14, but they did most of that damage to themselves. I really haven't been doing the damage here. Now I can't get this equipped in this turn cycle either. I also just have no utility lands. So in the games where I do flood out and have too much mana, like, I don't have something like Rishadan that a lot of these white decks have in Legacy. Oh, cool. I did 2 damage to my opponent this combat. Herg! Notably, my opponent already has 4 mountains, so a Primeval Titan that comes down, tutoring up a Valakut already puts me into a pretty touchy situation. Get to Path to Exile something out of the way. Yep. I lose probably the Core Firewalker here. Maybe the Core Duelist instead. Hard to say. Alright, they're just opting to get my flyer out of the way. This is going to be fun. So I'm going to Path to Exile this Primeval Titan, and then they're going to get a mountain and kill one of my creatures, and then I get in for 1 damage. My opponent has a billion mana and an active Valakut. I don't think we have a snowball's chance at coming out ahead here. Oh, okay. They just got a forest. Cool. 3 damage. I don't want to look, YouTube. Whatever this is, it kills me. We're dead. 10-minute round. Round 2, I'm on the draw. I can't keep a 1-lander here. I need to mulligan this. Same, but now we're going to 5. That's a little rough. There is a plan here. Alright, so we are battling against the Urzatron. Our opponent says, hello from Italy. Is this a league where I'm just a punching bag to big mana decks? Yeah, they have just turn 3 natural Tron. Let's see if my trusty machete can go and beat like a Wormcoil engine or Karn or whatever awful thing happens to me here. Like I can Oblivion Ring it, but then that that just makes me sad, you know? I'm not sure what Karn the Great Creator gets in Modern. I believe Mycosynth Lattice got itself banned here. I could just get like a Meteor Golem, and that's probably good enough, though. A Walking Ballista. Fuck, man. Like... Maybe the rest of their hand is nothing. Maybe the rest of their hand is nothing, and everything is secretly fine. But... everything feels pretty awful. I get no equipment, which means against Tron, with its huge top end, I just have tiny idiots. Like 1/1s and 2/2s. They minus that, they get their other Karn back. Alright. Alright. No. Like, this is the second round in a row where I just really want Search Hate. And I don't really have that. Like, I can Damping Sphere so their Tron lands can't produce a bunch. They don't know that I'm just, like, fast enough to plow through this deck. And these Thalias, or, like, that I might bring in to slow down them by 1 turn, like, run into problems with my own equipment. Yeah, this is not feeling great here. Eee. That one even had a Damping Sphere. uh... Like... we'll try. Like, I can't even just get this equipped next turn. Like... we're going for Quietus Spike now? Probably going for Quietus Spike now. Try to have their life total again. Oop. But even with Stoneforge here, I can't get this equipped next turn. So this is 5 total mana to Stoneforge in and equip, so that's a 2-turn cycle. That probably just means I should just loop this in and take my 1 extra point of damage. My opponent has turn 3 Tron, they have turn 3 Tron. There's not much my deck can physically do against that. Alright. So they get Tron next turn. Equip this here, because if 1 creature gets removed, maybe because of the Arn, I equip here, actually. And I think I just hold up Path to Exile. Alright, so that was worth an additional 7 damage. Alright, how bad? That bad. That bad. Alright. I got 3 for Wand. I'll go ahead and equip this and pretend that that's important for keeping it out of range of like a walking ballista or something. This kills in 2 turns, but like my opponent probably finds something big and dumb to do this turn that I can't beat. Ugin the Spirit Dragon? Concede? Concede. I don't have game versus these big mana decks. We have established that very quickly. So I have an opening hand. I have a turn 1 play and I have a turn 3 play. Is Mirran Crusader attacking and with lifelink on turn 4 good enough? I don't think so. Especially not when I'm on the play. Oh no. 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 question mark. Hope to draw a land. Still have a very anemic hand. This is bad. I'm gonna keep it because I'm already just like super disadvantaged, but if I'm not playing against a creature deck that Path to Exile is good against, I think I'm dead, and I don't think I come back from this mulligan. Like, my deck just isn't objectively doing anything that's particularly powerful. And that means that after a mulligan, when I don't have a fistful of cards and options, I feel very limited. Opponent is maybe trying to figure out what I'm doing here. Alright, my opponent is on burn. Oh, this turn cycle is so awkward. Like, do I just attack for 1 and then Path to Exile my own critter? No. That doesn't feel great. Like, I need the land, but I think playing this makes it likely enough that my opponent might answer my creature so that I don't gain lifelink, that I'll be okay here. It didn't have a creature for turn 1, so like no Goblin Guide or equivalent. And they have like an Eidolon this turn. Maybe I get some use out of Path to Exile. If I don't get a use out of it this turn, those cards are probably dead, and Oblivion Ring is currently uncastable. Despite the fact that we have a bunch of Core Firewalkers, I think we're probably losing game 1 to burn because of our mull to 5. And then maybe we can pick things up for the post-sideboard games. We'll get Thalias and Leylines. I also don't know how Mana Tithe is supposed to work in this deck, because you're, like, tapping out for creatures and playing equipment. You're just, like, not holding up mana, like, efficiently. Alright. Yep, so I have no plays unless my opponent plays a creature. That is not good. Like, I could take 9-ish damage to the dome in this turn cycle, and then just be dead the following turn. 3. Alright, so the good news is I can kill that. The bad news is I have no follow-up. My opponent still gets 2 damage out of their creature. And another land, which means that they can probably very easily Like cycle a land and fire off 2 burn spells next turn or something. Life's bad. Life's very bad. I don't have anything to say here. I don't know why my opponent is taking so long to search for a basic. Alright. They're back. Alright. No viable play. Ooh. The good news is I get some use out of Path to Exile, and maybe I'll get to draw a card. A trusty machete. That is not what we're looking for right now. Alright, so now I know that they have exactly 2 basics for the future. I also know that I'm drawing Trusty Machete. My opponent just also has like 2 cards on hold because of these cycling lands. Yep, so this is expected. Alright, Path to Exile. Not what I was looking for. You are the critics. I'm at 2. Path to Exile technically keeps me alive versus Goblin Guide, and I know my opponent has 2 basics, so it's fine to just play this out. But basically any non-land card kills me. My opponent has 1 card in hand plus 1 card on top of deck. Core Firewalker probably doesn't even save me at this point, because my opponent's spells will do 3 damage. Yeah. Alright. Thalia's in. Leyline's in. Oblivion Ring feels way too slow for this matchup. Like, I need to be deploying creatures. Similarly, Quietus Spike feels very slow. Like, I am looking to put the life-linking ability of Basilisk Collar on a creature that they can't remove. And, like, that's the plan. Alright. I have kept a hand with multiple Basilisk Collars and a Core Firewalker. That's probably about as good as I can hope for in this matchup. Like, hopefully Core Firewalker can't be removed. I didn't show my opponent that in game 1, so they maybe won't be bringing in something like a Path to Exile that can get rid of it. And then hopefully we just put, like, Basilisk Collar on Core Firewalker, and that buys us a decent amount of time. We put another Basilisk Collar in play, give something else lifelink, and Bob's your uncle. Maybe. Alright, let's see if we get to draw a card. We've drawn a Path to Exile. That's fine. That gives me a play to do next turn in addition to equipping Basilisk Collar. I mean, I'll do it. I'll block. What trickery do you have that prevents damage from being prevented? Yep. It still trades with Goblin Guide here, which I think overall means that I'm supposed to do that. I just equip now? I think I'll just equip now. On the off chance that there's something that deals 1 damage to me, I can play around that. Alright. Creature's a good draw. Land's a good draw. You have to Rift Bolt yourself? No, the Suspend is a May, right? So this gives me hexproof, but they can just choose not to cast the spell. Or so I thought. I might be wrong. Or they might have done it wrong. To check on that ruling later. Play Modern regularly and you know how that interaction goes. Let me know in the comments. Would appreciate it. If my opponent had a creature, they would have played it out in that turn cycle, so I'm not going to hold up Path to Exile right now. Path to Exile basically would only play around, like, what, Searing Blood, specifically? Would be something that I could remove and then prevent some damage. If my opponent draws a card here. Yep. Alright. Got to draw bonus planes. Second layer of Leyline, just in case. We'll use the Goblin Guide to you know, effectively maybe get a card. Half the time get a card. Roughly. Maybe a third. Since I have hexproof, I probably just remove the Monastery Swiftspear isn't nearly as threatening as normal. I think I like the Goblin Guide feeding me cards, so I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the Swiftspear. Now all I need to do is get a creature in play, give it some lifelink and some death touch. Preferably a pro-red creature, because my opponent is probably sitting on multiple burn spells that they can't fling at my face. I also forgot to switch out my Plains art before starting this league. Savage misplay on my end. Thank you, Brave the Elements. We're right on time. I mean, the good news is that Brave the Elements helps me survive. Alright, can't stop that burn spell. Brave the Elements only protects creatures. Another Brave the Elements. Why isn't this something like Giver of Runes? Like, a Giver of Runes could have gotten, like, in play and equipped. Alright, we're dead. We have 4 main deck core Firewalkers, and we can't beat Burn. That's a bad indication of the strength of this deck. I have a 1 land opening hand. I can't keep this. This deck does not feel viable. I I just don't feel like my cards individually are particularly good. Like maybe we'll play against a control deck and we'll just like roll them because they can't remove our creatures or something. But I have not picked up a game yet, and it hasn't been particularly close either. All right, Core Firewalker, this is your chance to shine. I believe I am preventing the damage so this replacement effect can't occur. I don't think I need to worry about counters being put on. All right, I always yes to that. Not currently. I should be able to. Let's just turn off auto yields to make sure I can yield to that properly next time. Oh, neat. Like, we have an Oblivion Ring for that, and then I can sit behind this Core Firewalker for a while. Like, it doesn't feel like I have enough cards that do stuff that, like, really matters in my deck. Like, I have cards that, like, technically do things, right? Like, but Oblivion Ring is dead a bunch of the time. Brave the Elements is dead a bunch of the time. I'm not quite aggressive enough to, like, really chip away at my opponent's life total unless I have a piece of equipment. And even when I do, it takes a while to equip. So always yes, always yield. Bright Dragon will power through Core Firewalker in a few turns. Why does Spike or Basilisk Collar? If I play Stoneforge Mystic, I can play Basilisk Collar this turn. So how do I lose? I lose to a giant Sprite Dragon. Maybe I'm just supposed to like play Mirren Crusader this turn. Just keep holding down the fort. And then go for Stoneforge next turn, when I can maybe draw another land, do 5 mana worth of stuff in one turn. Or otherwise play Stoneforge. And then go for like quite a spike equip Crusader in one turn cycle. Try to take out almost all of my opponent's life total. It's a weird set of like prowess life gain things going on here. I'm also not sure if my ley lines are going to be particularly good in the post-sideboard games based on these things that I'm seeing here. Oh, Gut Shot. They're just quite all in. We would be pretty darn dead without this Core Firewalker. Probably means I want to be thinking, good God, about mulliganing to one next game. Path to Exile and Oblivion Ring are probably my best draws here. Not bad. Alright, so this is like the Quietest Spike versus Basilisk Collar situation. Bright Dragon kills me in 3 turns. If my opponent doesn't get a removal spell, I hit them for 2, they get a 15, they lose half their life total, and then, yeah, so I can 2-turn clock them with Quietest Spike. Let's try to do that. Do I attack with Core Firewalker? No, let's not do that. I don't want my opponent to string together a couple of spells, and then I'm forced into, like, an awkward jump block situation. Alright, one of those draws was a land. That's good for me. I do need to be mindful that they have a Lava Dart sitting in the graveyard. Alright. Am I playing around a counterspell? I don't think so. I don't think my opponent has those. Those, of course, would be famous last words, but... Oh god, it's 3 to equip. It's not 2 to equip. That's punishing. Okay. That's a super bad error on my part. Shit, that's really bad. That's really bad. I think that's bad enough that to recover from that, I attack with both of these creatures. And I thought that was 2 to equip. This is not great. Also, just in terms of readability, I have a large 27-inch monitor, and I can't super well read the equip 3 that is in that text box. Another issue here is, like, my opponent just has red creatures that can chump block Mirran Crusader, so I'm not getting through with the Quietest Spike anyway. That was Lightning Bolt plus Lava Dart kill me. They didn't Lava Dart. Lava Dart would have only been worth... No, Lava Dart would have killed me. I would have gained 1 life up to 3. Assuming Lava Dart can hit a player. Yeah, it can hit a player. It's quite a spike on... Or Firewalker, do it. First strike damage hits them to 9. Nope. Alright, I'm dead. Wasting that mana definitely mattered here, but I don't know that I win anyway. If my opponent's position gets just a little bit worse, they just leave 1 Sprite Dragon back. And, like, in this next turn cycle, I can equip the Kitesail Apprentice to block this, but then there's still a lot of damage coming in off the other one, and I still die. Doesn't feel good. I don't know that my opponent has enough things that go directly to my dome where I can actually play this. Thalia feels good. I have no additional removal in the sideboard for aggro decks. Um, that's rough. I don't feel like I have the mana to hold up Brave the Elements. Don't feel like Oblivion Ring is fast enough. Um, this is just all around, like, this deck doesn't feel at all equal to the power level of decks in Modern. And, like, it's okay if we learn that throughout a league. But, like, look at this opening hand, right? The Brave the Elements and Oblivion Rings are doing nothing to actually help me win the game. They're just helping me to not lose the game. I think, like, what's going to happen is exactly like what happened last time, where my opponent builds something that can start attacking through Core Firewalker, whether it's the, what is it, Stormwing entity that gets cheaper once they cast an instant spell, or a Sprite Dragon, then it goes over this, and I am going to have a lot of trouble. And, like, because I have 3 different tap-out cards, I'm also not going to be able to hold up the Brave the Elements mana. Just, I feel like I have brought a pokey stick to a gunfight. Yep. I draw a land. I didn't draw a land. So theoretically, I'd like to play White Knight and Mark of Asylum on the same turn. And so I think I am just going to Oblivion Ring the Sprite Dragon and call that a turn. I'll also attack. My opponent gets in some haste damage with something like a Goblin Guide. They get in that damage, that's fine, but I need to get aggressive. My deck is just too clunky that I can't afford extra time off. Alright, so let's always yes to that. Always yield to that. That was just a shock to my dome. They're probably just trying to, yeah, probably just trying to do spectacle or light up the stage. Alright, so they get to hit their land drops for 2 turns in a row. That's totally fine. If I don't hit a land, I'm just going to play Mark of Asylum for my turn. Like, making it so my White Knights and Mirror Crusaders can't die is cool. Alright, now we shouldn't lose this game from here, right? Like, I have a Core Firewalker in play. None of my creatures can die to the removal that is in my opponent's deck. I have a double striker. This Core Firewalker is probably going to gain me like 10 life this game if this rate continues. Thank you for the life. Yep. I don't think my opponent realized what Mark of Asylum was going to do there. That's okay. Do I Leyline on the draw? Brave the Elements feels really bad. Maybe I Leyline on the draw. Maybe I can't devote 6 mana to Quietus Spike. Like, if I pull a stone, like, if I pull the Quietest Spike with a Stoneforge Mystic because I want it, that's fine. But otherwise, like, that's just not the plan. So this opening hand has 3 removal spells. I guess that means I keep it, but I don't feel good about this hand. But honestly, I don't know that I feel too good about many of the hands that this deck has. Uh, we're gonna need to do some significant reworking in the outro. That's the feeling that I get. And that's okay. But this deck did not set me up to win games of Magic, unfortunately. Because of things like mutagenic growth and whatnot, I want to wait as long as possible before casting this Path to Exile. And we'll be taking out the Sprite Dragon. It has evasion. That's huge game. And, like, just look at how many of my cards I can't play based on my opening hand. Doesn't feel great. Like, if I were to miss my next land drop and not remove this Monastery Swift Spear, I would, it would be in bad shape. And I'm not going to block that. They most certainly have some sort of lightning bolt effect. I'm just gonna let them have that, and they can decide whether or not they shoot me or my creatures with it. I want them to be removing my creatures instead of just hitting my life total directly, but we shall see. Oh, that's very good. Alright, yeah, so now I don't get to remove that Monastery Swift Spear. I miss land drop 3 because my removal costs 3 mana in my White Weenie deck. Are we actually getting 2 damage? Oh wow, we're actually getting 2 damage. To set myself up for success, I probably need to do this. I am really surprised that my opponent didn't just use the lightning bolt there. Maybe that means they're land heavy in their hand. Alright. So this is the punish for my Oblivion Rings being 3 mana removal. I take a lot of damage this turn. I get lightning bolted. Maybe lava darted 2 more times. Yep. I am somewhat surprised I didn't just get lava darted to death there. I'm also somewhat surprised that light up the stage didn't happen pre-combat. I think I could be dead this... Like, I should have died. Now my opponent just Vapor Snags my creature and I die anyway, though. So we are probably now 0-4 in less than an hour. And I believe we have put up 1 game win. Alright. I have 3 pieces of equipment. and a core firewalker who just wants to put some wins on the table. Let's see if we can do something. Okay, so you're telling me there's a chance. We have turn 2 core firewalker on the play versus the burn deck. And we get an extra card. And we didn't mulligan. This is the dream scenario. It even has like life linking plus attacking next turn, and then life linking plus attacking, and it's larger the following turn. Unless my opponent has like something wonky like main deck Path to Exiles, I don't know that I'm overly afraid here. I'm gonna be like swinging, getting in the red zone with this core firewalker rather than holding it back defensively, I think. This allows the Goblin Guide to attack for 2, but that's really like me blocking it anyway in many ways, because like the Basilisk Collar just gains me that life right back. Alright. Let's go. This is so awkward too, because like I have this other creature that I want to be deploying, but these equip costs, like relative to the format, are so high that I can't equip plus deploy another creature, which is kind of rough. Nice. We'll take the bonus lands. I do need them. Suppose I need to not F6 to actually just like say always yes to core firewalker, but that's not the end of the world. I guess I just play this out because reasons. I think once I get a second life linking creature. Oh, players can't gain life this turn. Well, I do still get the 1 off core firewalker. But that stings a little bit. I guess I can theoretically die if all 3 of my opponent's remaining cards are burn spells. That would be embarrassing. Okay, now I don't think I can die anymore. Not this turn anyway. I still think I can die. Like my opponent can just have running skull cracks, and that's that. Alright, my opponent has conceded here. That was closer than it should have been, though. Alright, like before, let's go Ley Lines and Thalia's in. Let's trim a Quietus Spike. And then, like, Oblivion Ring and Brave the Elements both seem pretty sus. I, I just don't think I'm going to have the mana up at the right time for these Brave the Elements, despite the fact that they protect my creatures from relevant spells. Like, I don't feel like there's good deck building fundamentals here, and all pile of my girlfriend's clothes just fell over. I don't think there's good deck building fundamentals here, and I'll talk about that in the debrief after this round. Had to mulligan a lot. Does this win? This doesn't win, right? Like, it has a Basilisk Collar, but then one creature outside of it. I'm gonna go to 5. I'm gonna go to 4. I look for Core Firewalker, land. Or this is pretty close to that. I want the first striker. Yeah, it's a bad sign if you have a 7 that's a reasonable mix of lands and spells, and you just don't feel like you have a reasonable shot of winning the game at all. Give me a land. Yeah. Drawing out of that mulligan. I don't know exactly how many Skullcracks my opponent's deck has, but every Skullcrack is just absolutely terrifying. By White Knight. So the thing here is that because the burn spells aren't going to go at my face, they have to go at my creatures instead. So my creatures are incredibly unlikely to stick. I'll keep playing them out, but also thank God my opponent had a Goblin Guide, or I would have just died for there being 3 planes, 4 planes on top of my deck in a row. Yikes. The slow 5 planes on top of my deck after a multifor is brutal. We shall continue to throw creatures out in the hopes that one of them eventually stops this Goblin Guide. But when we stop the Goblin Guide, we have to just take our draw step to draw the planes that are on top of our library. And that's not good. Ah, more planes. We need those for equipping things to our creatures with our equipment that we definitely have. Oh, a Core Firewalker. Hot damn. That's very good. I think this is now officially our longest round, at the 10-minute mark for this one. I thought the Core Firewalker was maybe going to be safe after they used a path on Thalia. I was wrong. Mark of Asylum, not great. Do I concede now? Out of shame? I need, like, my Armored Ascension that gives my creatures +1/+1 for each planes that I control. I would, of course, need a creature to equip it to. This is brutal. Alright, a Stoneforge Mystic. Hot diggity dog. Now we can play a piece of equipment and then get it smashed to smithereens and die. Also, like, I don't just have a Batter Skull to bail me out of these situations. Like, I could hard cast a Batter Skull and bounce it, and instead I have to just grab, like, a Basilisk Collar. Alright. Oh, he didn't get smashed to smithereens. That's good. I don't really know that I can attack with this Stoneforge Mystic. Alright, do you have the smash? I'm not playing around it. I can't afford to play around literally anything right now. I have no resources to work with. Opponent has basically a full life total. Alright, so presumably they don't have Smash to Smithereens. They presumably have a bunch of bolts or equivalent that can't go at my creatures and can't go at my face. Cool. I won a match with this deck. Alright. The following is meant as constructive criticism. I want to make sure you understand that before I start going. I think this is the worst Magic deck that I have ever played in a league. So, there's no utility lands. There's no cycling lands here. There's nothing that I can use as a mana sink. These are just lands that produce mana. So there's no utility here. None whatsoever. So if I flood out, I can't do anything extra with these lands. These have no bonus abilities. Like, I can't make tokens with these. I can't draw cards with these. These do nothing. I am a tap out deck, and Brave the Elements is really hard to hold mana up for when I'm trying to play creatures and equip equipment. The creature count of this deck is 18 in an aggro deck, and that is not enough creatures. Oblivion Ring costs too much mana for a game 1 removal spell for a white weenie deck. Mark of Asylum is dead in a bunch of matchups. there are all these really bad creatures in this deck that are good when they get equipped, and these equipment cost 2 or 3 to equip, so it's really hard to just go critter, equip, and do anything else either. And then there's all of these creatures with random protection colors, but when you get paired against a lot of decks, they just don't care about maybe more than one of these. And even when we did have like the core Firewalker versus Burn, which is like the nuts, it still almost wasn't good enough. So this is a very clear instance to me of bad deck building. The plan here isn't well thought out enough or well executed enough, and there's just like so many angles that aren't there that together this ends up making a very clunky whole. I did not feel like I was playing a modern deck, and in between games, this wasn't on the recording, but in between games, I double checked the donation to make sure that this was a modern deck, and I did, and this was submitted as a modern deck list, and it didn't feel like it. I just did not feel like I could keep up with any of the decks that my opponent was playing. As far as the sideboard goes, like, I have a bunch of hate specifically for combo, but I'm not beating the fair stuff either right now. And that means I needed cards for the fair matchups, and I did not have access to them. So what I'm saying is that if you want to play something like this, you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to figure out, what is it that I want this deck to do, and I need to crystallize this down to the best way that it can possibly be doing that one thing. Because as of right now, this deck feels like a bunch of pieces that aren't quite there, and this isn't competitive. Like, I don't even know that I could hand this to someone and say, like, hey, go play this at your FNM and feel like they could get wins there. Like, leagues are pretty competitive, but I don't even know that this cuts it at FNM. So, not every idea works, and that's fine. But hopefully you've learned some things about deck building and what this deck can and can't do by watching this video. Alright, for those of you that made it this far, I hope you enjoyed watching me get bullied, and I'll see you again soon for another piece of content. Remember, as always, if you want the deck list, and maybe you don't want this one, they are in the description, as well as my donation information. That's there too if you want to get one of your decks on YouTube or on Twitch. Have a great rest of the day, folks.